Hey there, it's Jenny McGarvey, and I am here today with my A5 daily planner pages. And I'm starting out by finding which stickers I'd like to use for decoration in my planner. The reason I'm sharing this particular layout with you today is that I'm sort of changing up how I'm thinking about my daily pages. So in 2025, I have started keeping a what I'm calling a daily diary, and I'm loving the project. It's really cool. However, it has kind of changed my planning, if that makes sense. So I also have ADHD, which I've talked about in the past, I think. And these daily pages in my planner have really changed in terms of me trying to use them for a lot of functionality. So I am focusing on that. As that focus has come into clearer view, it has sort of shifted things a little bit. So, for example, I've started keeping less track of certain things in this planner and pared down and started kind of keeping more of a brain dump style planner. And what I'll say about that is that the brain dump style helps my brain in that I always panic I'm going to forget something. But if I have a place that I look daily or at least really regularly for items, I can worry less about forgetting things. So I'm sort of shifting into decorating a little bit less, brain dumping a little bit more. And I think that this particular week is kind of a transition into what I will do for that because I'm sort of thinking about adding another category and maybe a little less decoration, if you will. All right, so I'm adding the dates. These daily pages are undated, which is great. This is a Wonderland 222 planner. I will link it for you below. And so I like to use this roller date stamp for the dates. And I say that because I don't want to select a stamp, put it on a block, stamp it, clean it, take it off, onward and upward. I also don't want to use stickers because I don't want the bulk up in that exact space every single day. So that's where this roller date stamp comes in perfectly. And then also the day of the week stamps that I'm using as well. This particular roller date stamp is an old one from Coco Daisy. And when I say old, I mean like probably like 2 years or something. But these are really easy to find online. However, when you see the day of the week stamps, I will link those below in case they're of interest to you. I really like them because they're small, they're easy to use, the font is very neutral, and yet they're so small that like I don't feel the need for them to be a clear stamp, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't need to be precise. So yeah, those work great. I am really enjoying the washi tape on the edges. And what I will also say about that is that as the decorative elements of my planner become less, having cool washi on the edges becomes a little bit more interesting. Does that make sense? I think it does. Anyway, so I'm shifting and transitioning a little bit, which if you've been here a minute, you should know that that's really not a huge surprise. I am the type of person that is constantly changing things and constantly evolving in my planning. So I'm using the Versa Magic ink, and these are great. Lots of colors, they don't bleed. However, they are a very saturated pigment ink and very slow to dry. So therefore, I have to either wait a very long time for them to dry or I use my heat tool in order to speed up the process a little bit. I keep the heat tool right next to my desk, so it works great in terms of it's always right there. I can just use it quickly and then move on. The heat tool is basically like a blow dryer. It just doesn't blow air in the way that we're used to. Like, I mean, ever so slightly, but really it's just sort of pushing heat out of the tool and it makes a noise like a blow dryer. But I've saved you from that by removing the background audio. So I'm just going through my stickers. And again, I kind of had one thing in mind and then changed my mind basically, which doesn't actually usually happen. I typically set my mind to something and then move on and don't really think about it again, but here we are. All right, so now I'm going to use these stickers, and these are like a vinyl sticker, like a waterproof vinyl sticker. And I do really like them. I do have to be careful with them with the heat tool, however, because they will shrink up if they get the blast of the heat on them. It's actually kind of crazy, but and a little bit annoying because it makes the pages a little bit wrinkled right there, and I often forget. So yeah, there's that. I believe that these are sweet bean plans. Not 100% sure, but I think that they are. And I just love them. They're book themed, they're really fun. And it's also interesting to me because I'm sort of thinking about my stickers in a different way as I'm thinking about transitioning into different ways to keep track of some of these things, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, just how I'm going to use these daily pages because I do really like the daily pages. It really focuses me to think about one day at a time and the things that I can get done. And as I said at the beginning, having a place to dump my brain and know that I'm not going to forget those things because I wrote them down. And I know that everybody's brains work differently, but for me, this is huge to know that I can just look back and refer to those things because I always use this planner. I like to draw the lines in a coordinating color. And again, I use the heat tool because I use fountain pen ink and I just want to make sure it's dry before I close the pages and write again because it's very irritating to me when the ink splotches on the other side and all of that. So a little bit of heat tool, the blotting paper, and it's good. Anyway, I like to draw the lines because it makes it easier to stamp in the exact spot that I want to stamp. So a lot of times the depth perception in using the clear stamps can be a little bit difficult for me when I'm stamping, but if I want them in a very exact position, these lines help. So one of these days I will get the exact measurements correct for my each individual stamp that I'm using, but apparently we're not there quite yet. So we'll see. Okay, so now I have several different headings that I'm currently using. So those are, I'm using schedule, I'm using to do, I'm using work, and I'm using dinner. So that kind of, those are the ways that my brain is thinking about things. So I'm currently thinking about adding a brain dump or nice to do or thinking about this type of category so I can just sort of purge all of that. However, I do worry a little bit about it because currently I will add it to the to do or the work section, which, in case it wasn't clear, to do is usually like just my life, right? But I carry those over from day to day. I know where to find those because those are the two categories that, yes, this is it. I'm I'm a little concerned that a it would be nice thinking about this, that type of thing might get overlooked, but I guess I won't know until I try. So I may try that next week. Anyway, the reason I'm sharing all of this with you, all of this thought process, is that a reminder that everybody's brains work differently. Everybody thinks about things in a different way. Everybody has different needs for being productive or getting the bare minimum done. And I'm sharing with you the way that I think so that you know, oh, okay. I can do it the way that I need to do it, right? Because I think that we buy planners or productivity tools, and maybe they don't work exactly the way that we need them to work. And then we think that there's something wrong with us. Why can't we make this work? When it's just not set up the way that our brains think. It's not a failing. It's nothing wrong with the planner. It's nothing wrong with your brain. It's just that it's not the right tool for you. It's one of the things that I recognize that works so well for me in a daily planner or in a teacher planner, like I have used in the past, where I can set up my own categories the way that I think about things or that are the most effective for me getting things done. I also would like to mention that I am not here to talk about productivity in terms of it being the end all be all. I'm talking about productivity in that there are certain things we have to get done in our lives, in our jobs, period, right? And so, how am I going to make that happen? Anyway, that is it for me this week. I hope this is interesting and you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment box below, and I will do my very best to get back to you. Thank you so much and make it a great day.